Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. So I'm going to be trying something a little different today, and I got a movie on in the background. Might end up becoming more distracting than entertaining. We'll see. I have it on mute so I don't get flagged, and also so that I pay more attention to you than to the movie. But it's one that I have pretty much memorized anyway. It's Reservoir Dogs. The reason why I have it on the background is because one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about that I was thinking about on the drive home was certain scenes in movies and how they kind of stick with you. And um, the one from Reservoir Dogs that I'm interested to see if it's going to get to by the time I'm done, because I usually like to do about an hour. Lulu the Loud in the background, everybody, in case you hear the scratching. She's trying to desperately find something that's under something else, as dogs do. She'll either figure it out or she'll give up on it. Thankfully, she's not one of the kind of dogs that barks at you to go help her fish something out of there. Um, she's kind of independent that way. She's going to try from all different angles, and if she still can't get to it, she'll just be like, all right, well, maybe next time my nose reminds me that it's there, then I'll try again. Oh, God, she's rearranging the furniture trying to get to it. It's ridiculous. But, that's fine. She's entertaining herself. That's the important thing. She is ridiculous, though. But I do like that she doesn't, obsess about it, where it's just like, oh, God, it's still there, and I haven't been able to get to it. Eventually she'll go off and do something new. I think that's the pity in her. But yeah, so with the shot that I was talking about is it might not be the one that you're thinking of. If you know Reservoir Dogs, and if you don't, it's Tarantino's first movie, and it's definitely a good one that kind of shows his style, and a great way for him to handle having almost no budget. But still making an exciting bank heist movie, which you never actually see the bank heist, and it's still an entertaining film. So that's something to say for right there. But you're probably thinking of a lot of different iconic scenes. I mean, like even the opening, the one that I'm watching right now with the opening, spin around the table. Tarantino loves to do a spin around something. He loves to do, especially dinner at a diner, breakfast table. Like that's a staple of a lot of his movies. And then just a lot of dialogue. He's always good with his dialogue. Um, so might think that it's some of the more iconic ones, like Mr. Orange in the back of the car after you get spoilers if you haven't seen it, but after you get shot, um, you know just so many good ones. But the one that I was thinking about was there's a very horrific torture scene in it. It's probably one of the most talked about scenes in there. And while it is very memorable, everything about it, um, the instant, the music, just everything about it. Again, I don't want to give too much away if you haven't seen it. Which at this point, I don't know why I'm trying to save spoilers, but anyway. So if you've seen the movie, you know the scene that I'm talking about. And so the part that always got me is when he goes out of the warehouse to his car and then comes back in, and the camera stays with him, and it's just so nuts where the song's playing and it's already iconic because he's danced to it, and it's an upbeat song while he's doing this horrific stuff. And then he leaves the warehouse and he's out on the street with just random street noises like it's any other day to the rest of the world, not realizing what's going on inside this warehouse, all this crazy stuff going on. And I mean, hell, somebody could have jogged by at that point. He just would have been like, morning, that kind of thing. And in a way, it almost kind of takes you out of the movie. It's almost like, the entire thing that you're watching on the screen is just like, okay, movie's happening, movie's happening. This is that universe, this is on the screen. And then when he comes out of the warehouse, it's almost like he briefly walked in from the exit sign at the bottom of the theater, grabbed something off one of the chairs and then went back in. It was almost like it took you out of the movie that much, where it's just like, oh yeah, like there's this isn't just like what's in the camera. Like there's a whole world out there, and in that world, in that universe, they don't realize all the ins and outs of what's going on. Just us personally get to be able to see it. Thank you, Lulu. But it's nuts because it's also something that I get reminded of multiple times. Like, for instance, in my 20s, when I would be at a party, and you go out for a smoke, or it just gets to be too much, or you need some air. It's like bunch, 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 like really loud music, and then you can step outside, and then and there's people actually having conversations instead of just trying to dance or shout over the music, and it's just almost like a completely different setting. Just by the thin door, you can still get a sense that the other world's going on, but it is a completely different, environment. And so just little things like that. Sometimes I'll have something on the TV or music playing, and then I take Lilu out, and then when I come back in, and it's either playing the same song but much later, or it's a completely different song. It's interesting that it's something that kind of stuck with me. Where not only was that obviously a great directing thing, but also it's just something that kind of resonated with me in, an experience where it was unlike many other experiences I've had in movies where, some movies I get sucked in, some movies I am completely like, all right, well, I'm just gonna have to suspend disbelief for this entire movie. Some of them, at the end, it's like, you feel numb afterwards because it's just like, wow, I just felt so many emotions, in that. But that was definitely a unique one where I was just like, whoa, it yeah, holy crap. And it takes a pause and it helps build the tension. He's always been a good tension builder. But yeah, so I was just thinking like how I wanted to talk about that particular scene in the movie, and then I realized, well, hell, I'd like to rewatch that, definitely. And then I was just like, well, why don't I, get to that part while I'm doing the podcast? Because, it's one that I can kind of barely pay attention to, which I didn't realize. It's like, okay, yeah, you thought that initially, but I mean, you barely pay attention to. If it's a movie that you love that's on the background, you don't have the sound on. It's just like, oh, what's going on now? And I always have the subtitles on, and of course, it's a dialogue-driven movie. So, I mean, you've probably already seen my eyes move over to the side. If this is if you're watching it, I know a lot of people just do this as audio. Like, if this is you, jogging with me in your ear, then I hope it's entertaining to you. I get it though. Like I've been doing a lot of my day with a podcast in my ear, and I think I've mentioned this before, but it's just very interesting how this is a very new chapter in my life where, um, and I took to it like a fish to water too, just because it does help with the tinnitus. Oh, here's the scene with him in the car, holding hands. If you want to mark it and backtrack, I don't know, but yeah, basically that's just the scene that just showed up when I said that. Um, oh, and a little bit of trivia for you: the car that he's in the back seat flailing around in is the same one in Pulp Fiction where they have to clean it and stuff. Yeah, that was a cool little. I love movie trivia. I love looking in the background of stuff. It's insane that like pretty much every movie I've seen, I've also seen all of the IMDb trivia. Um, Most of them I've seen the goofs on. For some reason, almost all of them I've seen the quotes where it's just like, come on, man, like why you gotta look at the quotes of a movie that you've already seen? That's the weird thing to me is I don't know who the quote section's there for. I mean, me obviously because I'm a weirdo like that. But if you haven't seen the movie, then a lot of the quotes are spoilers, and they don't get flagged the same as a spoiler does when it comes to trivia. I don't know if anybody else has picked up on that, but and then so it's like if you haven't seen the movie, then why are you going to see the dialogue? Because it could potentially spoil it for you. And then if you have seen the movie, well, you know what they said, so why do you get to reread it? So I know that I'm being kind of a hypocrite because I absolutely, read the quotes, but again, it's interesting that they even exist, and it's funny that they haven't been flagged for being like, hey, that's literally dialogue of when that character's dying in that movie, and I didn't even know that that was going to be a thing. And it turns out it's like one of the last lines in the movie. It's like, come on, man, you're not going to mark that with a spoiler. I don't know. Maybe that's just an opportunity to update the site. Maybe that's some constructive criticism instead of just me being like, well, that's how it is, and it'll always be that way. I'm certainly not saying to get rid of it. It's just it's who's it there for anyway. So now we come to the warehouse. So yeah, I guess one thing that I was talking about with low budget is you never see the bank. You never see more than mostly besides the diner scene and a couple outdoor shots. Just the interior of a warehouse that was probably very cheap to rent. I don't know how much they had to pay for cleanup costs afterwards, but um, yeah, so it was just a brilliant idea where it's just like the dialogue, the tension, and all that is going to be what actually makes the movie just completely fascinating and pulls you in, rather than seeing a bunch of action like the actual bank robbery that they just talk about. You never actually see a single scene in the bank. I think you see one scene outside of the bank, and even then, it's not even focused on the bank. It's more focused on the dialogue of him telling him how to intimidate somebody. If there's a hero, talking about break his thumb and stuff, and it just ends up being a really cool. Again, it just sucks you in, and you're not even inside the bank. Every other one seems to have to do like okay, here's the bank, and here's the plan. We're gonna go through the plan, and then we're gonna see the actual thing in action. I mean, like it does none of that, and it still is a very it still ends up in like the top 10 lists of greatest bank heist movies of all time, and it always is unique in being the only one that doesn't actually have a scene of the robbery itself. So sorry to be blowing the movie and Tarantino a little bit, but I am a huge movie and TV guy, and that is going to be something that besides dogs is going to be brought up a lot in here. So much like a lot of podcasters that I listen to, they like sports, and I'm not interested in sports, at least even a tiny bit. In fact, the only time it's even a little bit entertaining is when I hear about a podcaster who's really into it give me some highlights so that I don't have to watch it. I can just picture it in my head and enjoy the enjoyment that it's giving them. But I don't think I'd have the patience to sit through. It's like if I have an hour and a half, I just do a movie. Like why would I do a game? I mean, hell, I'll do a movie about that sport. Because then it's just gonna only have some highlights of the sport. Maybe the fairy tale end is going to be a slightly elongated version of that, but it's also going to be interesting, drive the plot and have, far better camera angles, even though they do really well. I gotta admit, like sports, has like some of the highest resolution, some of the craziest camera angles. I mean, there's drones flying all over the place now. I mean, it's nuts. Before all the you usually be able to get was like the Goodyear friggin' shot, but now they actually have drones like like flying right up in there. It's insane. Still not enough to capture my interest for the entire thing. And yeah, I'm one of those a-holes that, except for the Super Bowl, where I actually do like to watch interesting commercials because screw me. All right, like the heck with me. Whatever. Like come at me if you want. It's fine. I just am a guy that isn't really usually into sports. I do enjoy Community, and the actual concepts, not just the show, although the show is great as well. But I enjoy Community, and when I know that the majority of the people around me are also watching this at the same time, there's something to be said for that. I do enjoy competition. I do enjoy that stuff. It's just watching other people do it instead of participating, isn't as worth it as somebody that put in like millions and millions of dollars into a very engaging movie. So I enjoy commercials if they're good, and that's something where I hate that the majority of commercials are dumbed down, predictable. Poop on the white the white husband character, because that's basically all like that's the only one that can be seen as a buffoon in any of the commercials, and that's great. Like I don't want there to be a commercial that is like misconstrued as being negative against a certain race or religion or sex or sexual proclivity, let's say. Um, but I do find it infuriating when it's dumbed down and pandering, and that's almost all of them. And I just want there to be, one where it's just like a genuinely funny joke, or just silliness. I mean, like it's a product that I can never use, but I find their commercials thoroughly enjoying. Old Spice, for instance. There's, I would probably never use, Geico Insurance because of how much money they put into their commercials, but they've had so many. I mean, they've had the gecko, they've had the caveman, they've had, like the puns on the, new home rat, clog problem. Like they've done so many, like they're I think they're almost like more diverse than Budweiser in like just the avenues that they've taken to like have it be a brand, and like most of them like stick with one. Like Progressive just sticks with the whole Flow team, and like Geico has just done so many. I can't believe how much mileage they got out of the fact that Geico sounds like Gecko, and they just decided to have a spokesperson that just got like more and more and more like I don't know, not campy, but just I don't know. He's not my fave, but it's amazing how much mileage they managed to get out of just Gecko and Geico sounding vaguely similar. Like what a stretch, and good for them. Um, yeah, this is a movie where a lot of stuff is just like people combing hair and um, smoking cigarettes, and yet it's just utterly magnetizing. So screw it. All right, so I'm gonna grab a drink real quick while I'm talking to you. I tried this before once, and I never actually replayed the video to this point to see if you could still hear me. So this will be interesting to see, because this time I'm definitely going to check it, because it is funny just kind of walking away and having you looking at a couch. I could even put the movie on for you, but I can't because I don't know copyright laws and I don't know the technology to switch it. I guess you can, I guess a little pro tip. I think that they're figuring it out, and there's algorithms that are catching it now, but I have noticed that usually if you reverse an image and or blow it up a little bit, or if you even oh god, this one's kind of annoying, but like you have like this background and then the movie playing in a corner of the background, you can avoid copyright issues somehow. Um, and I don't know if they eventually get flagged, and caught. Like it just takes them a little bit longer, but you know, that's just fascinating. I mean, and it's funny because I hate to say it, but it's just like kind of God bless the people that fight the fight of like like on Reddit. There was the Patrice O'Neill documentary that came out that I think you have to have like HBO or something. And so somebody managed to put it on Reddit, and I got to watch at least half of it before I lost service. Then service came back, and then it was gone already. But I bet you that if I had been able to keep service, I would have been able to watch the whole thing without having to pay a dime. So I'm not advocating piracy, but I'm also not saying that I'm gonna join a force that can arrest them. Is all I'm saying. Um, I'm not in the biz, so I don't see the immediate harm in that, and I don't see anybody having to give up their eighth yacht because of people pulling little things like that. And if anything, hey, if it's fascinating enough, then I'm just like I would want to always have access to that. Maybe that is a little commercial for. Maybe that's how come they let them leak for a second, because maybe that's just like, hey, it was a little commercial for like, well, you want to watch the whole thing, or you want to be able to rewatch that at some point, because now that we've blocked it on all access, um, now you got to pay for it, and hey, maybe they get a couple people that way. I don't know. I honestly don't know how it works behind the scenes, and there's a good chance that most would never tell you, because once you know, then it doesn't work the same anymore. Heisenberg uncertainty principle with a lot of stuff, I guess. Maybe that's not the correct way to use that in a sentence, but yeah, I wanted to sound smart, and if I hadn't self-censored, then you people that didn't know any better would have just been like, oh wow, he even worked the Heisenberg uncertainty principle into his conversation. But I'm pretty sure I used it incorrectly, so whatever, it is what it is. This is one of the few bit of action pieces. Steve Buscemi running down the street with cops chasing him. Um, Again, if I haven't said it already, I mean, there's gonna be spoilers throughout this whole podcast because I'm gonna be seeing it and shouting stuff out in the screen. Oh, not the first, not the last time that Tarantino does somebody rolling up on the hood of the windshield of a car, and wow. Again, I'm just watching this, but I think that was a lot of shots fired from his one gun, and I'm pretty sure it would have been empty long before that. Um, by the way, that's something that I don't know if you're like me, but I'm not exactly like a gun nut. I'm definitely not anti-guns existing in the world. I'm that's about as political as I get. Is like I'm not opposed to them existing in the world, but I'm not a gun nut. But I definitely think that it's something that I pay attention to, and that I think a lot of people pay attention to. If you're a fan of Archer, Which, if you've seen some previous episodes when I do the quote unquote sponsorship ad reads, sometimes I do the Army phonetic, alphabet, the Alpha Beta Charlie Delta Echo Foxtrot Golf Hotel, um, and I've dabbled with doing that or not because I've noticed that Bill Burr does that on some of his reads, but I've also been in the military, so I feel like I didn't do it to copy him. I just did it because I thought that it was a fun idea, and it's something I like revisiting every once in a while to see if I still got it, because I always falter on at least a couple of them. Like, I think um, when I was doing them, I always had a problem with O, which is Oscar. Now I remember that, but now I just briefly forgot what I was. I think it's India, but I stopped at H because I couldn't remember. So it was a fun exercise for me, but I don't know. I don't want to ever seem like I'm a hacker copying in somebody else's podcast. And it does suck because I watch so many that it's like, well, what can you do that's unique to you that isn't imitating somebody else but is still entertaining? Because I feel like I'm kind of a boring guy. So I forget where I was going with the phonetic stuff, but more hair combing, by the way. Just saying. So, um, yeah, I completely lost the thread. So while I'm waiting for it to come back, um, one of the other things that I realized that when I was talking to you is that if I started this too late, and like many times I've actually had to cut a podcast at the end because it was like, all right, well, it's definitely dinner time. I need to. Oh yeah, I thought that was kind of fun that they kept in. So um, Harvey Keitel goes to light a big, no, sorry, light a you know what kind of lighter I'm talking about, not a Bic, but the other one, the oh, I'm having a brain fart. This is crazy today. I can't think of a single thing. But anyway, the lighters that you can do some little fancy stuff, like you can light on your leg, or you can do that. Um, yeah, when I used to have one that I would use, I always loved to do that stuff. I would, um, you know, open it up and light it on the pant leg, or I would hold it and then open it that way and then snap that way. Um, and it's always fun. I'm stalling because I can't believe I can't remember what the heck it's called, because I know it's not butane and I know it's not Bic. It's just I'm stuck on the B for some reason. I know it's anyway. So it's funny because I don't know if it was budget time or something that Quentin Tarantino liked, but he tried doing the snapping thing a couple of times with the lighter, and then all right, screw it. I'm just gonna use my finger, and then he gets it lit, and then he lights the cigarette. I just thought it was funny that that was something where they didn't go, all right, cut, all right, let's try it again, and this time make it cool. Ah, man, just those little things that I love seeing in a movie. I can't remember. It wasn't the Jackass crew. Um, is it CKY4 or whoever the heck yeah. So some of the same crew, or similar concept. More skateboarding than Jackass stuff. But I remember that there was um, one where one of the guys loves watching old westerns, and it's not for the reason that most anybody else would. It's just like he loves the horrible editing from them. So, for instance, like a guy will throw a punch, and it'll look like the punch connects, and then you hear, oh, so punch, such badly timed, like stuff like that, where it was just like poorly edited, shit would just make him like laugh his absolute ass off, and that's what I love about. I mean, I guess art in general, but movies especially, where it's like, hey, you know what? I didn't care for that one. All right, well, I loved it. Well, okay. Not every movie, not every art, not every thing is going to be for everybody, and not every part of the thing that both people like is going to be appreciated. So maybe nobody else liked the lighter flick. Maybe it took you out of the movie entirely. But in my rare case, I'm all about like, oh, look at that, they kept that in. I'm just fascinated with that artistic choice or lack thereof. It could be an artistic choice. It could be completely not wanting to at all. I'm leaking all over myself. Hey, what's up? Did you have to bump Daddy's knee? It's okay. I'm not gonna blame it on you. That was totally my fault. Not that you helped, but yes, Lulu. Hello. All right, Lulu's coming to say hi. Oh, big stretchies, big stretchies, because Dad's paying attention to you somewhat. I am loving that you're playing with yourself, though. All right, thank you very much. Not like that, you know what I mean. I don't like it when you lick your butthole. But I do like it when you play with your toys on your own because you know that Daddy's a little busy, but you're just having fun being in the same room, and I feel the same. That's why I let you on, even though I know you're probably a distraction, especially when you're bumping your head against the table that the laptop's on. And there she goes. All right, well, now she's going to be like, well, I'm going to lean into that because that's obviously getting attention from Daddy. So I'm going to rock the table that my cheap little laptop is on and wiggle, wiggle, and rocking everywhere. And I'm just going to ignore, take a sip, avoid eye contact, hope that she's eventually going to get the idea. There she goes. Okay, that's much better. And nope, she's still gonna hover like a creeper. So like I love that, sometimes even if you were watching this and not just listening to this, that you're not gonna be able to see her just off camera, like creepy staring, like where if I had the ability to like pan it over, it would just be like you know. But it's just funny to have like a movie on the background, a dog staring at me on the just below frame, me, on the screen as I talk to the blue ring, which I've barely been able to make eye contact with. But that's the thing. I I get the difficulty of eye contact when it comes to like I don't know if I'm autistic. I doubt that I'm on the spectrum, but if I am, it wouldn't be surprising. But I know that that's a big thing with being autistic is that it's difficult for you to make eye contact necessarily. Sometimes it's easier for you to like look at their ear or their forehead, and that way you can seem like on their end that you're maintaining eye contact, but you don't actually have to. But it helps both parties. A little tip that I picked up at one point, just for anybody out there, if you do have difficulty making eye contact, I never had a problem, but I do understand the difficulties. Is like there's a fine line. Like apparently, I used to be a big starer. I I don't know if anybody else had this issue, but like, first of all, I had no problems maintaining eye contact, so I would do it for so long that it's just like, well, look away, blink, like do something. Like it just seems like you're just friggin' like eating my soul with those eyes. And then also other times like again, I don't know if you guys get in your own head like this, but oftentimes if you just really get lost in thought, but you have your eyes open, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I was just like completely staring at somebody or something and not thinking at all about that somebody or something. That was just literally like where your eyes happen to rest when you just got deep into thought. And the worst part is if you just suddenly come to that realization because they suddenly look at you and they see somebody that's just been staring, and then you're just like, oh, oh no, oh, sorry, I was not just leering at you, and now I'm embarrassed because you caught me leering at you. Like I literally was so in my own head about what I was thinking about that you just happened to be what I was like staring at in their general direction. And then once you made eye contact, obviously something moved in my peripherals that I made eye contact, and then it looked like, but since I was already looking over there, it made it look like the entire time I was staring at you. I mean, does anybody else have this problem, or am I crazy? Is it just me? Because I really would love to hear some feedback about, like, dude, I'm with you. I somehow managed to stick with you through this much of the podcast to actually hear you talk about that. And yeah, I totally have gone through that. And it's almost as bad as like somebody saying, waving at you, and then you wave back, and you realize they're waving at the person behind you. Thank you, Lulu the Loud, making yet another guest appearance. I mean, I guess this is just in case anybody, because I do deal with animal videos, like dog videos specifically, but also animals. And I'm talking out of my ass, and I try to do as many disclaimers as I can at the beginning. But still, I might say the wrong thing at some point, and if I ever do, and then somebody calls me out on it, I just want to make sure that it's just like, at least with the dog thing, where it's like, look, I don't keep her locked up while I'm doing these podcasts. Like, this is a dog that is definitely like, has, plenty of, you know, play and exercise and socialization. And I even sacrificed my sound quality and my shaky video quality, for for that because I feel like it's on brand. It's on point, you know? It's a guy that does podcasts about dogs, and yet he still allows his dog to be with him when he's home, despite the fact that it's loud and disrupts the podcast. Like, come on, of course. It would seem so disingenuous if I wasn't, you know? Um, I gotta admit that, and, this isn't a big thing because, like, it isn't like she's exceeding her limit of kennel time, but I will often, when I get home, not immediately let her out of the kennel because that's something that a dog trainer would always recommend anyway, is that you don't make a big ceremony of like, oh my god, I'm home, here, let me let you out of your cage. It's just like, yeah, eventually, I get home, I can check the mail, I can take my jacket off, I don't have to get to you right away, especially if I know that you were just out and peed like, only a few, like 1 or 2 hours ago. So that's how it is when I get home. So oftentimes I will record the animal podcast without her distracting, because if you're here just for um, you know, chameleons say, then why would you want to be distracted by somebody's dog in the background? I mean, you might find it endearing if you're also a dog lover, but more likely you're just going to be like, okay, I'm going to maybe find somebody slightly more professional that doesn't do that lackluster of a podcast. Excuse me. So, yes. Hear her huffing in the background. She's just like, oh, I'm so over this, Daddy. Sorry, we got still quite a couple more minutes left. At least another half an hour, if I'm not mistaken, which is like crazy because I mean, Michael Madsen just finally showed up. About 30 seconds in from when I was talking, if you're trying to sync it up. But yeah, so it's interesting. I've always considered him good looking and a great actor. I have no problem saying, when actors, when men in general are good or good or not good looking. I'm very secure in my sexuality, and I think it's pretty silly and homophobic if you can't admit if a guy is good looking or not. I mean, like literally, if you looked at Leonidas and all right, who's from 300? So like, if you look at Leonidas and fucking Quasimodo, whatever his name is, like are you that homophobic that you really can't tell me that you can't see that the King of the Spartans is sexier than the Hunchback? I mean, at that point, you're just fooling yourself if you can't get admit that far. And if you can admit that far, then it's just like, okay, well now we're just talking about metrics. Once I've gotten you to admit that the Hunchback isn't as sexy as the King of the Spartans, then you're gonna have to say that okay, well there is a certain degree to which I'll agree to, and now we're just talking about specifics and semantics. Um, what's hilarious is that "Are you gonna bark all day, doggy? Or are you gonna bite?" Is such a silly phrase that it should not be that impactful, but the way that Tarantino shoots it and the way that you later find out that this guy is a cool as a cucumber psycho. Um, it actually, does work, but so anyway, Michael Madison, um, some of like, all right, for this character specifically, so he'll do a lot of down to the sides, always calm, always calm as a cucumber, and down to the sides, and then every once in a while, and he has a great smile. He'll do this little smile, and once you fully understand his character in this movie, and you go back and you realize that he's just capable of like either of those two. If they just get slightly annoying to him, he could just, like without a second thought. And him saying, "Are you gonna bark all day, doggy? Are you gonna bite?" It's just him saying, "I understand your frustration, but I feel like I don't know. It's just so great where it's just like yeah, it's not the most intimidating line, but then once you know the character and the way he delivers it, I wish he got more work. I mean, he's done some stuff like Species, where God bless him, it was a paycheck. The movie has its moments. I mean, and that was a good one in femininity too, even though it showed a lot of boob. There was a guy that was just like, "Come on, you know what we came here for." She's like, "Oh, okay," and then she just jams her tongue through the back of his head. I mean, come on. That was one that was definitely a B movie, but had a few A scenes in it. That one in particular. But he did great in that one too. Like I wish I saw more work of his, and because he just has such good subtle acting, and so on point with the character, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of them. I mean, some of them did get their due, but like just looking at this cast alone, like Harvey Keitel got all the respect he deserved. I feel Steve Buscemi, like already is this mealy toothed motherfucker that is such a good actor that you know it's undeniable. Like he had to take on some silly weird roles mostly through Adam Sandler because of how silly like his mouth especially looks, but his acting ability is undeniable to the point where even like the Pretty Boy Hollywood people were just like, "Fuck it, yeah, yeah." He put him in. He's the best. Like you can't deny it. Tim Roth, Mr. Orange. You know, I personally feel like he's a great actor that has made a lot of great movies and shows. So I feel like he has gotten his just due, but at least Hollywood wise, and I hope paycheck wise, I hope that like he has made the money that has made him be able to live a comfortable life. And I love the shit that he's in. But I gotta say that it seems like most anybody that I talk to, if I say, "Oh, and Tim Roth," and then people are like, "Who?" and then I have to name a movie, and they're like, "Name another movie." Name another movie or show. Oh, him. Oh yeah, yeah, he's good. Um, I just hope that like money wise, he's made enough of to be comfortable in his notoriety. I know that there's not a lot of people that are out there for. I want people to recognize me when I go down the street. I don't think he's one of those guys. So probably it's just like money and feeling like I put out something that I thought was awesome and that I agree with is really cool. And I feel like he's one of those guys. And I personally, and I feel like at least box office wise, he has done that. But it just hurts me that there's a lot of people that I talk to that are just like, I didn't know who you were until three examples in, and that sucks because he rocks. You know, one of the reasons why Tarantino's put him in a bunch of his movies too. He recognized the talent too. Tarantino was good at recognizing talent. I mean, and as is evidenced by a lot of these people. And from what I understand, a lot of the times he was able to snatch them up when they were at a low in their career, where he was just like, "Oh, you're willing to accept this money for being, like I'll have you because you're like one of the most amazing actors ever. I recognize talent when I see it in a heartbeat. But if the world in general and Hollywood, specifically doesn't, well, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity and hopefully reboot your career like he did with John Travolta. So I feel like that is definitely one where you know I wish that happened more with everybody else that has been in this stuff because I feel like some of them definitely but that's the thing is like if you love a specific actor or whatever you might want to put him in literally everything that you've watched and there's nothing worse than playing that game where it's just like oh wait that actor was originally going to be in that movie. Oh, I can see it now. I can watch the whole thing in my head. Oh my god, yeah, no, definitely. Oh, can you picture Nicolas Cage or whoever? Like I just picked him out of the blue because I think I remember that was more recently something that I had seen where Nicolas Cage was supposed to be. It was considered for a role, and it was just like, dude, I'm watching that whole movie now in my head as with Nicolas Cage as him, and holy crap, is that something like that? I don't know if it would have been good, better or worse, but whew, hey. So yeah, it was interesting that they put this scene in where they do a lot of rough and tumble, wrestling with the character that is a stone cold freaking killer, and that he can be playful with the people that he respects and stuff. I don't know. Oh God, that scene. I mean, it doesn't quite rival the walking away from the warehouse scene. Which again, I know that it seems weird that is like if I had to pick my favorite scene from Reservoir Dogs, and there are many, that would have to be it. And honestly, that wouldn't have been my first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice. Your favorite one changes as you watch it because you watch it through different eyes. So I would be interested that if I could revisit this in 10 years and then in 20 years and see if my favorite scene in Reservoir Dogs has changed. If I'm even still watching it, if I'm even still making podcasts, if I'm even still alive, I would be interested to see the follow through for that. So, fuck it. Um, a really interesting video that I saw was a guy that found a VHS that he had made to himself and decided to pour himself a glass and respond to that and make it seem like it was a back and forth. Which was brilliant because his younger self had made sure to record where it's like, huh? Wait, I can't understand what you're telling me because you're in the future and I'm in the past. So you telling me this is ridiculous. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please look it up. I don't. Oh God, shout out to that guy. I don't remember who the heck it was, but, um, I. This is probably going to be a good way to find him. It's just his young self said, "Do you still like Doctor Who?" And then he looks over at his wall of memorabilia, and then he looks back and he's just like, "No." And it was just adorable because it's just like that's so great. Like Doctor Who is one that has made it stood the test of time through the ages as just completely, much like the Doctor himself, getting reanimated, and redone. I can't think of the word right now, but you get that ruined the per for the good analogy. Where much like the Doctor himself, the show keeps getting resurrected and has multiple lives, much like the Doctor. See, that's how I kind of should have put it. I've been having too many of these, and now I'm gonna do break two. Break two with getting another glass of wine in the middle. I'm just so irresponsible in the middle of a freaking podcast. I'm just supporting my own alcoholism and just making you guys be bearing witness to it because I don't know. Things have been going like when things go halfway decent in your life, especially in these times and tribulations. I mean, it just seems like to everybody that ever existed, they were always like, in our times of tribulations, and they were always right. It has progressively only gotten better. Worse in categories, but definitely overall better. And every single generation is going to complain about their times and tribulations, except for the ones that have it the hardest. And ironically, those sometimes end up being the ones that not only end up having a better time when they have the chance. I mean, that's the thing, is that if you have like the hardest life, then the better times you enjoy, exponentially more. But also end up becoming bigger and better people and stuff because of that, because they've learned how to just be on 24/7. Whereas people that have had, relatively easy life, it's just like, well, I can turn it on for a little bit, but then, I'm exhausted. Oh, that's it for today. Let me grab a glass of wine. So, it's important to, I guess celebrate's the wrong word. It's important to appreciate the times when it's just like, I don't have that much to complain about. Yay. That sounded, my tone versus my words sounded so disingenuous, but I mean, I genuinely meant it. It's just like, I don't have a buttload of stuff to complain about. Like, stuff isn't collapsing on me. Things aren't breaking down on me all at once. Um, you know, People dying and bad news and people getting sick are not happening all at the same time. Like it often seems to happen. So just enjoy that. Like, even if you don't have a positive where it's just like, dude, I just got a promotion at work, or like, dude, I just friggin', you know, had, you know, uh, you know, best time of my, my 3 mile run ever. Like just as examples, it's like it doesn't have to be a positive in order to be able to be happy and celebrate just the fact that there wasn't as many negatives as sometimes happens. Like sometimes that's the best you get going for you, and if you can't just genuinely like take a moment to appreciate it, because it's so hard to. Like oftentimes, I mean, the easiest thing to do is to track on, is like to pay attention to and focus on and track on, the bad stuff that's happening at you at the moment, and it does need to be addressed. If you just let the world poop on you for your entire life, you're gonna end up as a toilet. So you can't just have it be that way. But it is definitely important to be able to appreciate the lulls in life that are just, you know what? That was peaceful. I had a moment of peace. I I didn't have to get anxiety or anger or stress about something that may or may not be out of my control. And now they're punching the crap out of him, and he's tied to a chair, and yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it is interesting. All right, so Tarantino has this thing where he does suit, black suit and tie, and so that's usually in Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, that's just the standard uniform where it's just I'm just gonna put that on there. And so this guy, who is the second higher up to the biggest bad guy in the movie, technically, um, the second up is wearing like the windbreaker, and when you just see a bland warehouse with a bunch of bland suits, and then all of a sudden, you know, colorful windbreaker shows up. It's very striking, and it's just interesting that he can hold his own, despite having some soft features. I gotta admit, you add the windbreaker onto the already soft features. I mean, he's got a bit of gut. I'm not shitting on the actor. If you're still alive and you're listening to this, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, dude, you do an amazing job. I'm sorry that your name escapes me at the moment, but you do an amazing job. Um, as the son, I mean, like like you have so much emotion when you do that friggin' Mexican standoff. Like, I mean, stop pointing at my dad. Whew, dude, that sells the whole thing. I just want you to know, like whoever the heck you are out there, like that sells the entire, again spoilers, but like one of the most like what it's building up to. The Mexican standoff is pretty much what it's building up to the whole movie. And when he has that genuine emotion where stop pointing that gun at my dad, like whoo, like that makes it real in that moment. Like this is a very unreal movie. This is an unreal and unrealistic movie. This should not exist. This should not be good. And just the way that it's done, and thankfully, not just great direction, but also direction and picking the right actors for said direction. I love, by the way, spoilers, that you made the weirdest looking guy be, honestly, in a lot of ways, the smartest, not not the most moral, but the probably the smartest one. See, the thing is that, like, in real life, you have to deal with gray areas when it comes to morality. Um, he is morally gray, but Steve Buscemi's character is arguably the smartest of the whole group when it comes to the whole thing. Besides agreeing to the job in the first place. God, should I? No, no. This is gonna be a positive podcast. I'm not gonna mention like the big. No, because if I mention that, then I'm mentioning it. So I'm not gonna mention what I was about to mention. Wrap your head around that one. I can't believe that's getting recorded and that I'm keeping it in. Am I keeping it in or am I leaving it in? I'm honestly forgetting. I'm keeping it in. I'm honestly forgetting my own catchphrase at this point because it's just like it's getting so meta. Um, Shout out to Josh. I just had to check my friggin'. I just had to check my lumbar pillow to see my own catchphrase because my bro loves me. I think more than I love myself. That was. Uh oh. Starting to slur. All right. So get back on track. Again, I don't know if this was a director's choice or a personal choice, but Mike Madsen sitting up high on top of something as he's doing his play bowing and stuff. You know, it makes so much sense because he's clearly the psycho alpha dog of this whole group, and being up on a higher place, being a dog lover, and knowing this about dogs, it's so fitting that he would naturally gravitate towards sitting on top of a is that a car under a tarp? It's got to be. All right, that's a car under a tarp that he is sitting out top of. For whatever reason, I don't. I, I honestly don't remember it being a car, but now that I'm looking at it, it is. Oh man, probably most definitely maybe I don't know a car. So I don't know where we're at. I think we're closing in on it, but here we are. He just jumped down off of the car. He's taking off his coat. This is the scene that I was talking about, and the rest of you can just go ahead and tune off. You know, um, shout out to the let's do the shout out to samedunecustoms.com. You got your Simply Cribbage, the NH Coffee. All those shout outs. Please, visit your local businesses and stuff. But we're beginning, so you guys can tune out and turn off. And thanks for watching the podcast. But now I'm going to do a play-by-play about the scene that I was talking about. So he jumps off. He takes off his coat. He goes. He lights a cigarette. He goes up. He goes. Now that we're alone, well, I'm going to smoke a cigarette casually and just ask you, hey. So the cop's just like, hey, look, I don't know anything. I'm young in the force. I can torture me if I want. And he goes, torture you. That's a good idea. I like that one. Yeah. Oh, I get some cigarette on my shoulder. Yeah. You know. Oh, I'm just gonna fling the cigarette casually. Look, you're talking to me. I don't have a boss. Nobody tells me what to do. You understand? I'm gonna slap you. So it starts with a slap. So you're gonna say to somebody, right? You don't have a boss. So oh, look at that. Now I got blood on my hand. Like he's just like so casual, and like immediately offended by it. Just like you got your nasty blood on my hand. Again, I'm still walking casual around. I know that you're incapacitated, and I just pulled up some duct tape. And this is where it gets crazy. I really don't give a fuck what you do or do not know, but I'm going to torture you anyway. Regardless. This is where you realize, oh my god, he's so psycho. Not to get information. He could get information. If the guy had some information, he could get information. But before he starts torturing him, after the initial slap, he duct tapes his mouth because he wants to mute it to the outside world so that he doesn't get caught. Now he's going to torture for the pure enjoyment of it. And then, now that the cop is duct taped and tied to a chair, real quick, he just pulls out his gun, cocks it, and then aims it at him real quick. And then the cop is just like, oh my god, he thinks this is the end, and he's going to he starts ducking around and flailing. And this is all for the amusement of him. Oh, yeah. Now I remember, oh my god, this is crazy. Okay, you guys are probably all tuned out by now, but if you guys are cinephiles, so Michael Madsen just pulled up his pant leg, and he has cowboy boots under his suit. Not only does he have cowboy boots under his suit, but he also has a knife in the boot, just like he revisits in Kill Bill. Spoilers, when she has the cowboy boots, and then she's trapped, and she pulls the knife out of the boot. Holy crap, what a callback. This is awesome. I forgot about that part, even though I'm so obsessed with this. So, alright. Oh my god. That's so good. Alright. So, now he has the radio on. He's dancing. He just started the dancing when I said that. Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. Got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair. And I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yeah, so, and then he just slashes him right on the cheek. All right. And now he's holding him. And then he sits down in his lap. And what's funny is that this is the most violent part of the movie, and yet it happens off camera. And most people forget that because they just picture in their head that it happens. And then it goes, watch your head over the friggin' brick. Like, it pans off to the side where you don't see him cutting off the ear. And it goes, watch your head. Most people miss that because they're picturing in their head the ear getting cut off. And then it comes into frame with him holding the severed ear, which is just a prop. It's fine, but, like, still, that doesn't impact the emotion of the scene. And he's just like, like that was him nutting a little bit. Like he had, if he was a woman, he would have had like a mini orgasm. Like it wasn't a full like G spot orgasm, but like it was a little like, ooh, he just slipped it in and it's been a while. Um, and then he has to make a joke because he's just so so he's like, hey, did you hear that? And then again, he has to wipe his hand off on his body because he's just like, would you quit freaking bleeding on me? Like I know I'm torturing you, but like just the insolence of you. And here comes the part. All right, he just slowly is strolling away as the guy's screaming and like the music was playing. Comes outside and then chirp 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 chirp. Chirp, 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 chirp. He's just walking. He's just taking the keys out. He just opens the trunk, brings out a gas can. Just looking around casual, like you normally would, even though he has a fucking holster on it. Oh my god. I want to pause it, but like he has a friggin' like the whole like gun holster thing. He took his jacket off. He forgot. He just walked out. That was so conspicuous. He was acting inconspicuous, and now he's dancing again because now he's back in the warehouse with the tortured cop that he's gonna pour gasoline all over. Spoilers. And he's just dancing and he's having fun. But that part, oh my god, when he goes out, it's just a normal birds chirping, traffic having kind of day out there, and now he's splashing gas on his open wounds, which has to fucking kill. And now that's enough for realistically for the duct tape to, which should have already fucking fallen out. But like, he's just like, yeah, let's take the the duct tape off because it's not working anyway, and just let's hear it. I want to hear the screams because I was doing it to, I don't know. This is the part that people remember is him splashing gas on and just it being horrific. But honestly, the walk outside was what did it for me. So I think that's good enough. I love that I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger if you never watched this. This is a good, and if you haven't seen it, then this is going to make you want to see it again. He just laid a bunch of gas as a trail away from the cop that he just doused in gasoline, so you know that he's going to light a cigarette. His